Welcome to the Flower Lounge, a place for conversations with wildly creative people and a little plant-loving wisdom to help you experience life in full bloom. I'm Katie Hess, flower alchemist and founder of LOTUSWEI, and I believe in a world where we're all living at our personal edge. So the other evening, I had to pick up some last-minute things from the store. I had been at home for a couple days resting, had actually taken a weekend of rest and felt really at ease, wasn't rushing, wasn't stressed or strained. And when I got in line to wait for the cashier, I stood next to this guy who's a fellow with flaming orange hair, natural color, like a redhead, with tight curls, really unusual, beautiful hair. And so I stood next to him, not in a position where I would typically make conversation, but I just felt so at ease that I looked at him and said, wow, your hair is amazing. And you know how many people pay lots of money to dye their hair that color? You got it for free. And he kind of chuckled and he was surprised that somebody approached him about it and made some comment about that's the only thing great that I got for free, or one of the only great things I got for free, or something like that. But it was just a nice acknowledgement of another human being in your sphere. And so when the line kept moving up, he said, no, you go. He didn't have anything in his hands. I'm not sure what he was just paying for gas or what, but he let me go ahead. And so typically I would have been oh, no. I have a bunch of things, you go ahead. But because I've been reflecting a lot recently on the art of receiving and how important that is, I just said, really? Thank you so much. And just stepped right into place in front of him, even though I knew that I was going to take a long time and I had all these weird requests. But I wanted to receive and allow him the joy of being able to just give me his place in line. So when I got up to the front, I did what I needed to do, and I bought him a lottery ticket. And, the opportunity to win $150 million. So that was really fun to get him a lottery ticket and then nab him on the way out and say, here, I hope you win. And sincerely, purely feel I hope you win. And then there's that oh God, what if I just got him the winning ticket? I love how crazy the mind is. But I really sincerely wished him well. And he, at the last minute, was hey miss, thank you so much, before he walked out. And I loved that transaction. It's not a transaction, but I loved the feeling of that interaction because it was so clean. There was no agenda. There was no attachment. It was just two strangers passing in the night and sort of one-upping each other on the kindness. And it didn't need to progress anything further. He didn't need to get me back anything. It was just wow, this is how a practice of giving and receiving in a really simple, pure dynamic with a stranger can be. And how fun it is. How fun that is to offer that tiny little kindness to someone. Whether it's time, precious commodity, right? He let me go in front of him and it was time and his patience to wait for me, or the lottery ticket that had this opportunity of changing someone's life. That's kind of exciting. And more than just the $2 lottery ticket, but the wish for someone, because we had just talked about, he said that, my great curly red orange hair was one of the only great things that I got for free in life. And so it's God, the possibilities, the opportunities, what if he did win the lottery? That would be amazing. It would be such a great lesson. And even if he didn't, the lesson of just fortuitously bumping into someone and having some great fortune or auspicious generosity have the potential to happen, and how easy that is and how effortless it is. I was just having a conversation with someone about finding a partner. They were feeling a lot of stress, what if I don't find my partner? And this is, really common, I think, for people, especially in the US, where we have all this Disney culture of the main point in life is to find your other half, which is kind of a tall order and a little bit crazy. And when you visit the eastern part of the world, it's not that big of a deal. there are other types of relationships that fill you with just as much love in your family, with your sisters, your brothers, your friends, your family, your grandmothers, the people that you meet on the street every day, and the stores that you visit, and the community that you have, et cetera, et cetera. But in the West, it's a big deal. There's a lot of weight put on it, a lot of value put on finding a partner, and then also, growing a family, which is understandable that we want children and the experience of having a family. And so we were talking about, like, actually, we make up this idea in our head that things are really difficult. Like, it could take years to find the right partner. And yes, it could, especially if you don't settle for less. If you really hold a high bar and you're going to hold out and wait until you find that person, or someone who quite closely fits the bill, or someone that you can work with to grow a life together or to grow a family together, someone that you can commit to and that can commit to you. But then in the end, it's ultimately like easy, right? It's like as easy as someone sitting down next to you on a bus or the subway or in a class or in an experience. Like, it's as easy as someone just coming to sit down next to you. It's as easy as a friend introducing you to so-and-so, somebody that's maybe been in their sphere of influence for many, many years. Suddenly the introduction is made and boom, done. It can be that easy and effortless. And in fact, it is, which I think is kind of the same conundrum we're in with receiving and giving and ultimately awakening. Like, it is hard, but it's simple and it's actually quite easy. So to introduce this very short mini solo cast, I just wanted to say that in no way, shape, or form am I an expert in this topic. This is something that I am exploring and sharing in process. It's a topic that I think a lot of us have been somehow grappling with, but now for some reason is the time to shift that dynamic. Now is the time to stretch our capacity to receive and operate outside of our comfort zone. Like, life is short. If we're going to do it, we should do it now. Like, receive more abundantly. We say we want to live certain types of lives, and then when things get offered to us, we say, like, no, I got it, or no, I can do it, or oh, no, don't go out of your way, or no. Like, we actually put up resistance and we refuse help and we refuse support, even when it's offered to us purely. So I hope that this really short solo cast inspires you to open to new levels of receiving in your life. And really, this isn't about having the answers. I'm more of a proponent of asking the questions so that we can create the space so that our own wisdom and insight can arise. And for me, the magnification of this conversation started when I was in Asia this summer. And I wrote a little bit about, at the end of every year, I write about what are like main huge insights that I gained from that year. And one of them was the impact of being in Singapore specifically and in Asia, because the culture is such that people are just so incredibly supportive. People will drive across town to get you lunch and bring it to you. They'll basically do anything to help you. And the level of support that I received was like uncomfortable. Like, it was actually uncomfortable for me. And I noticed myself having a little bit of resistance and pushback and thinking, like, if folks would want to help me, it was like, oh, no, I got it. Or, oh gosh, you shouldn't put yourself out. Or, because when someone does something nice, like once, that's one thing. But when they do something like go out of their way, like 15 or 20 times for you, right? It's like, it gets to a point where you're like, oh my gosh, how much receiving can I allow in? And I think that's a really interesting question. Like, how much nourishment can we allow ourselves to experience? How much support can you allow into your life? I think about the private dance lesson that I took recently with one of the world's best salsa dancers or Latin dancers. And she talked a lot about the body as a reflection of Mother Earth. And she talked a lot about expansion and contraction. And even when you just look at the body, logistically, when you're moving in dance, the more that you pull yourself back in and contract, the more energy that you have for expansion. So she does a lot of isolated body movements and talks a lot about how even just by contracting just a little bit more or expanding just a little bit more, you can make yourself seem taller, or you can make small movements seem really big. So these are like common concepts in the dance world, right? But I thought it was interesting because she would match the contraction expansion to the breath. So when you contract, you're breathing air out. When you expand, you're opening, lifting your chest to the sky. You're opening up your rib cage, allowing yourself to take a deep breath. And I was thinking about that in terms of giving and receiving, that even just like logistically with the physical human body, you can expand more once you've contracted. And this is also something that we've been working with, the latest elixir that we're working with in the Flower Evolution program. And so it's all kind of tied together. And so my thinking is, why is it so hard to receive? Why are we so focused on giving? Why in the Western world do we feel like we have to do everything ourselves? And like our self-worth is dependent on being able to be so independent and handle everything and handle all the details. And that the more that we contract, the more we can expand. And so the more that we can, if you think about it in terms of contracting is receiving and expanding is giving or engaging with the world, there needs to be an equal relationship. And the more, in fact, that we can contract or receive, the more that we can expand. So it sounds all very cliche, right? The more that I can receive, the more that I can give. But in practice, it's actually quite difficult. It can be challenging to receive. Like, how many days of the week can you allow someone to bring you lunch? Can you really accept more abundance into your life? Or is there subtle levels of resistance? Can you really receive more support? What if someone were cleaning your house, doing your laundry, making your bed? What does that feel like? What if someone were cooking your meals every day in your house? I mean, these are silly examples, but just sort of to like feel in the body, is there any sort of resistance or tension around receiving support? There may also be a difference between receiving support from women or men in whatever your dynamic is. I know I've been learning a lot by having this big building, and there are a lot of little things that I don't know how to do. And so having the guys who are our family, friends, come and help us move and stuff and lift heavy things and replace out electrical outlets. These are things that I wouldn't typically reach out and say, like, could you help me with this? Right? Like I would typically like Google and look for someone to hire and pay to do it. And so the act of being able to receive that level of support as family, friends is a good practice. And oftentimes when we receive, it's good for the giver, of course, right? I mean, they're creating good causes and conditions. They're doing an act of generosity. It's also helping them solve puzzles. It's helping them figure out new things. If I'm having a early 20-some-year-old guy offer to replace the outlets in the building, it's also good for him because he's learning something new and refining his ability to sort of step up and be a man and take care of things. So when we are able to receive, we allow others to also enjoy the art of giving and learning and being generous. Of course, it is easier said than done. It's a practice. I think receiving can be service, support, can be love, can be abundance, money. How much are we willing to allow ourselves to receive? There can be subconscious, subtle, sneaky, can't even really put your finger on it, resistance to receiving more abundantly. How much love can you let in? It's interesting, even just looking at nature, the sun and the moon, right? The sun is the absolute giver of warmth and light. And the moon is really just a reflection of the sun. So the moon is in receiving mode, but when we look at the incredible light produced, the reflection, the glow, the radiance of the moon, and the magic of the moon is a classic example of the beauty of receiving as a reflection back of interconnectedness and generosity. And also, I think it helps to think in terms of when we make space for receiving, we make space for, because of our interconnected web of generosity, we can make space for others to receive. So, for example, I've written about the story on Thanksgiving where Taylor offered to do gua sha for me, which is like the traditional Chinese medicine practice of scraping. And immediately afterwards, like typically, right, the MO is sort of like a friend does something nice for you, then you will offer to do that same thing back. And typically that's what I would do, but I had to go and get someone dinner. And then after I came back, I wasn't feeling too well, so I needed to go to bed really early. And in that space of being, so the practice of being able to receive something without giving equal back immediately is an interesting practice. And then because there was that spaciousness, she had the time, because she wasn't face down receiving some kind of treatment, she also was able to treat Kate, who had been cooking all day, and Momu, who was visiting us from China and missing her family. And that was like a reminder, oh, my mom does that same thing. So other people got nurtured. And then fast forward till today, Taylor's going on vacation for the holidays. So we're training another person to help with botanical treatments, and Taylor's going to receive a treatment today. So it's like this kind of cycle of generosity that occurs when you don't resist or fight the receiving portion. If I had, really been adamant about like what I receive, I have to give immediately, wouldn't have been able to get someone dinner. I probably would have gotten sick. Other people wouldn't have been able to receive. And so it's interesting to think that we can even create obstacles when we think we're doing something beneficial. Just even having the desire alone to do something beneficial isn't enough. There has to be skillful means and wisdom associated with it. And so sometimes even just by thinking we're doing the right thing, we can create obstacles. And so in this very silly and small example, being able to wholeheartedly receive and not feel like it immediately has to be given back. There's time and spaciousness, and everything comes back around. I was thinking the other day about all of the offerings that we've offered at LOTUSWEI in the last few years, more so just intuitively. The flower lounges with the candlelight and the fresh flowers and the mandalas and the tea ceremonies and the intimate gatherings, retreats, deep, meaningful conversations, flower essences. In some ways, this is it's like a form of receiving that we don't often give ourselves. I was just talking to Nicole Jardim on the podcast about, she was saying something about how do you put yourself to sleep versus how you put a baby to sleep. Are you on your phone checking things right before you close your eyes? Are you on your computer? You just hop into bed, or do you have nighttime rituals? And I was thinking, wow, if I were going to create my own situation, I would light candles and have some fresh flowers and good smells and incense. And why don't I do that? Why don't I put myself to bed like that? Why don't I create an environment that is like that? Some people are really good at creating soothing and sacred environments around them all the time. And sometimes we don't do that. Sometimes we don't offer to ourselves what we would offer to others. I was doing a flower essence circle a couple months ago around gratitude, and one of the women in the circle said, oh yeah, I have these really nice shoes in my closet, but I never wear them because I don't want to get them dirty. And so we were chatting a little bit about what that is when you allow yourself to have nice things, but you don't allow yourself to actually use them. And so you may have something in your closet you never wear, or you have like the nice china and silverware that you never break out, or, other items like material possessions or memberships to the museum or the botanical garden, or things that you really love to do and you enjoy, but you don't necessarily allow yourself to really enjoy them. What is that about? And that's another interesting practice. Can you wear the nice thing every day? Can you wear the nice shoes every day? Can you use the nice plates and silverware every day? What is that thing in your life that you are saving for a special day? And can you allow yourself to have that now? Because life is short, and it's a good practice to allow yourself to be nourished and supported and have nice things. If you have the nice things, you might as well use them. So I don't pretend to have all the answers, and this is definitely a practice that is front and center, something that I'm exploring and working with flower essences and creating a new blend. That will be the new blend. The first new blend of 2020 is a bouquet of flower essences that will help us break down some of the resistance to receiving, to allowing, to expanding, to contracting, to allowing ourselves to have the nice experiences to create the environments conducive to our flourishing and thriving and awakening, to give ourselves the best conditions to allow others to support us, to open up to greater and greater levels of abundance and prosperity and support of all things. I'm not just referring to financial, although that's nice too. Like, how much beauty can you allow? How much creativity can you allow? How much joy can you allow yourself to experience? Sometimes we feel like we have to have a reason to be happy or joyful. Sometimes if we feel really joyful and giddy and, laughter coming out, that we feel a bit silly if we don't have a reason for that. Why do we need a reason? And can we just allow ourselves to experience greater and greater levels of joy for no reason? Can we allow more beauty to come into our eyes? Can we allow more spaciousness? Can we allow ourselves to sink more deeply into the beauty of the present moment, where there's no striving or struggling or trying to fix or solve or get somewhere? Can we just allow ourselves to relax into the perfection of the present moment and allow everything to be where it's at? Can we just fully accept all of the details of the present moment without feeling like we have to check everything off of our to-do list, without feeling like we have to do more, accomplish more, get somewhere, have a better social media account, get more followers and likes, create more impact, get more sales, be more, do more, be more, do more, appear as if, get more public speaking, whatever those things are for you. What if everything were just fine right as it is right now and could be celebrated? How much joy can we allow ourselves to experience? How much spaciousness can we allow ourselves to experience? How much loving support can we allow ourselves to experience? How much love can we let in? How vulnerable can we become? How much of ourselves can we turn back and look at and be a best friend to ourselves? How much of the human experience can we allow in without shutting down? Can we create a team of even greater support? When someone offers to help, instead of saying, "No, I got it," can we just say, "Yes, yes, yes"? Can we rewire our patterning so that the practice of receiving actually leads to greater giving? And can we allow ourselves to enjoy the receiving part so that it's not just like an intellectual, okay, I'll receive more so that I can give more? Can we allow ourselves to enjoy the pleasure of receiving? Is there really a difference between receiving and giving? Can we attain a sort of intimacy, interconnected inseparability with the person who is giving to us? And in fact, maybe it's not such a seesaw. Give, receive, give, receive. Maybe it's a building. You put in a block, I put in a block. We put in a few blocks, you put in a few blocks. It's like salsa dancing. I talk about this metaphor a lot. So a woman and a man, they're dancing together, right? And because it's essential that each person is fully 100% present. It's like a self-arising dance. It's improvisation. It's listening. It's awareness. It's following. It's leading. It's everything in one. And so two people are creating something together. There's no struggle. There's no power dynamic. There's no anyone above anyone else. It's like a mutual creation, self-arising awareness exercise, building an experience. And so in the practice of receiving and giving, maybe it's not so seesaw. Maybe it's actually strengthening the bonds that we have between us as human beings. Allowing ourselves to receive is allowing ourselves to be humble, to be open, to allow, to be vulnerable, to be worthy of support, that our visions are worthy, that our energy and time and resources are worth conserving and contracting and pulling in, just in the same way that we would effortlessly and in a moment without hesitation offer generosity to another human being. Why would we ever want to deprive someone of giving and the joy of giving? when it's done so effortlessly and lovingly and without hesitation? So these are some questions that I am asking and working with in my own practice and developing a new flower essence blend for, because I think this is something that a lot of us struggle with. And I'm really curious about exploring what that feels like when we can receive more, when we can allow more, when we can dissolve the resistance and tension to feeling like we have to do it all ourselves. How much support can you open to? How much nourishment can you open to? How much beauty can you allow in? How much joy could you allow yourself to experience? Of course, if you have any feedback or questions, you can respond through the blog post, through Instagram, social media. Feel free to drop us a line. If any of this resonates with you, let me know. And be on the lookout for a new flower essence blend in 2020 to help us all open and allow greater levels of receiving and therefore giving. Hope you have a wonderful, beautiful, introspective time for the end of 2019 and happy 2020.
Thank you so much for listening to The Flower Lounge. I'm Katie Hess, and we'll be releasing a new podcast every Wednesday. If you like what you heard, or you know someone who might be touched by our conversation, share it with them. And don't forget to subscribe. To find out what your favorite flowers mean about you, take the quiz at LOTUSWEI.com.